parents kicked me out when I was 17 years old because my stepsister lied that I stole jewelry. When my grandmother died and left me the inheritance, they came to cry. I was 17 when my life split into two halves before and after I left my mother's house. At the time, it felt like I was living in someone else's dream. Or maybe their nightmare. My dad left when I was 10, and for a while it was just me and my mom. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. Then she met Jack. She fell hard for him, like she'd been waiting her whole life for someone to come in and complete her. I could have lived with that, honestly. If it made her happy, fine. But Jack didn't come alone, he brought Haley, his daughter. She was 14, spoiled to the core, and apparently allergic to anything resembling compromise. From day one, Haley made it clear she didn't want to share a house with me. She said it was creepy to sleep in the same room with a random boy. Never mind that I was the one who had to give up my space when they moved in. We lived in a small house, so I got stuck on a pull-out bed in the living room while Haley got the second bedroom. She still found reasons to complain loudly. "She's just adjusting," my mom would say, brushing it off. Jack would chime in with something like, "Give her time, it's a big change." Meanwhile, I was losing sleep and patience. Every time Haley didn't get her way, there was some dramatic fallout, and somehow it always got pinned on me. The first big blow-up was over something stupid Haley claimed I'd been going through her stuff. I hadn't even been near her room, but she made such a scene that Jack and my mom took her side without even asking me. That's the way it always went. Jack had my mom wrapped around his finger, and Haley had Jack wrapped around hers. I was just there. I should have seen it coming when things finally boiled over, but I didn't. The night it all fell apart started out like any other. I'd just gotten home from my after-school job, tired and ready to crash on the pull-out couch. Haley was sitting at the dining room table, her phone in one hand and a bag of chips in the other. She barely acknowledged me when I walked in. About an hour later, Jack and my mom came home from a date thing. They seemed to be in a good mood, laughing and talking. Then suddenly Haley yelled, "Dad! Mom! Someone has been going through my stuff again!" I froze. I knew where this was going. "What's missing this time?" Jack asked, already sounding annoyed. "My necklace," Haley said. "The one Grams gave me. It's gone." It wasn't just any necklace, apparently. It was a family heirloom from Jack's side, and Haley had made a big deal about it when she got it. I didn't even know where she kept it, but that didn't matter. "You were home all night," my mom said, turning to me. "Did you see anything?" "No," I said immediately. "I didn't touch her stuff." "Why would I?" Haley was already in tears. "It's always him. He hates me. He probably took it to sell it or something." Jack glared at me like I was some kind of criminal. "Where is it?" he demanded. "I don't have it," I said. "I didn't even go near her room." "Check his stuff," Haley suggested, sniffling. And they did. They rifled through my backpack, my work uniform, even the drawers in the living room where I kept my things. Of course, they found nothing, but that didn't stop the accusations. "Maybe you sold it already," Jack said. "That's enough," I shot back. "I didn't take anything and you know it. She's lying because she doesn't want me here." That was the wrong thing to say. My mom, who had been quiet until then, suddenly snapped. "Don't talk about her like that. She's your sister." "She's not my sister," I shouted. "And I'm not staying here if it's going to be like this." "Fine," Jack said. "Then go." I looked at my mom, waiting for her to say something, anything to stop this. But she didn't. She just stood there, her arms folded, her face unreadable. That's when I knew I was on my own. I didn't have much to pack. My life had already been reduced to a few drawers and a corner of the living room. I grabbed my clothes, my books, and a few things that were important to me: a photo of me and my dad from years ago, some comics I'd saved up for, and my headphones. Haley was still in her room, probably gloating, while Jack stood by the door like some kind of prison guard. "You're going to regret this," I told my mom. She didn't answer. I walked out into the cold night with nowhere to go. Reality hit me as I walked down the street, my bag slung over my shoulder. I could have called a friend, but most of them lived with parents who probably wouldn't want me staying there for the long term. Then I remembered my grandmother. She lived about half an hour away, in a little house she'd owned for decades. My dad's mom. After the divorce, she stayed in my life, always sending birthday cards or calling to check up on me. She always told me her door was open, but I never thought I'd have to use it. I made it to a bus stop and used the last few dollars in my wallet to get to her neighborhood. It was after midnight when I knocked on her door. "Ethan?" she said when she saw me. "What's wrong?" I told her everything, Jack, Haley, my mom. The whole mess. She listened without interrupting, her expression changing from concern to what I can only describe as anger. But not at me. "You're staying here," she said firmly. "No arguments." That night I slept in a real bed for the first time in months. The next morning she made me breakfast: eggs, bacon, toast. The work sense sat across from me at the table. "You're my only grandchild," she said. "And as far as I'm concerned, this is your home now. Don't you dare feel like a burden." For the first time in years, I felt like someone actually cared about me. Of course, my mother eventually found out where I was. She called once, trying to guilt me into coming back. I hung up on her. After that, I stopped answering when she called. It was like I was cut off from my old life, and for once I was okay with it. For the next few years, it was just me and my grandmother, and honestly, they were some of the best years of my life. But then life has a way of sneaking up on you. Living with my grandmother was like stepping into another world. She had this old-fashioned way of doing things: fresh flowers on the table, food cooked from scratch, and a house that smelled of lavender and coffee. She didn't have much, but she shared what she had without hesitation. At first, I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'd gotten so used to being blamed for everything that I half expected her to wake up one day and decide I wasn't worth the trouble. But she never did. She pushed me to focus on school, even when I didn't see the point. "You're smarter than you think you are," she'd say. "Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." She was the only person who made me feel like I could actually make something of myself. For the first time, I had a routine that didn't involve walking on eggshells. I'd go to school, come home, help her with whatever needed doing, fixing things around the house, mowing the lawn, stuff like that, and then we'd have dinner together. She'd tell me stories about when my dad was a kid, and I'd tell her about my day. She even came to my high school graduation and sat in the front row with the biggest smile on her face. My mom wasn't there. Jack and Haley weren't there. And honestly, I didn't care. After graduation, I got a job at a hardware store in town. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid enough to help with the bills and put something aside. My grandmother told me not to worry about money, but I couldn't just let her carry me. We became a team during those 2 years. She was my rock, and I liked to think I was hers. But as much as she tried to hide it, I started to notice little things. She'd forget where she left her glasses or get winded walking up the stairs. She brushed it off and said it was just age, but I could tell it was more than that. One day she sat me down at the kitchen table, a stack of papers in front of her. "I wanted to talk to you about something," she said. She handed me a folder. Inside was her will. "I don't want to think about it," I said, pushing it away. "You have to," she said. "You're the only family I have that matters. Everything I have goes to you." I tried to argue, but she wouldn't listen. "Promise me you'll take care of yourself when I'm gone," she said. I nodded, even though the thought of losing her felt like someone punched me in the gut. A year later, she died in her sleep. It was the worst day of my life. I wasn't ready to say goodbye, but in a way, I think she was. She left me everything: her house, her savings, even a small life insurance policy. It wasn't a fortune, but it was enough to get by. What I didn't expect was the reaction it would get from my mother and her family. The vultures were circling sooner than I thought. The first contact came a week after the funeral. I hadn't heard from my mom in over 2 years. Not a phone call, not a text. But now, suddenly, there she was, leaving a voicemail as if nothing had ever happened. Ethan, honey, it's your mom. I heard about your grandmother. I'm so sorry. We should talk. Call me when you get this. I didn't call her back. Then Jack called. We're all really sorry for your loss, he said. Your mom's worried about you. Right. Worried about me now, after they'd thrown me out and never looked back. I told him I was fine and hung up before he could say anything else. A few days later they showed up at the house uninvited. I came home from work to find my mom, Jack, and Haley standing on the porch like some kind of awkward family reunion. Ethan, my mom said in a soft voice. We need to talk. What do you want? I asked, crossing my arms. We've been thinking about everything, she said. How things ended. We made mistakes. I made mistakes. I shouldn't have let things get so bad. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. Jack stepped in. Your grandmother left you a lot, didn't she? The house, the money. We know she wanted to take care of you, but maybe it's time for us to start over as a family. There it was. The real reason they were here. You've got to be kidding me, I said. Ethan, please, my mother said, tears in her eyes. We're sorry. Haley's sorry. We all are. We just want to make things right. Haley didn't say a word. She stood behind Jack and avoided my gaze. I couldn't tell if she was embarrassed or just bored. You kicked me out based on a lie, I said. You didn't even ask me what happened. You believed her because it was easier than believing me. And now you want to play happy family because you think there's something in it for you? It's not like that, my mother insisted. We love you. We miss you. You haven't missed me for the last 3 years. I shot back. Why now? My mom started to really cry, and Jack tried to put a hand on my shoulder. I stepped back. Don't, I said. Ethan, Jack said, his tone annoyingly calm. This isn't just about the money. We want to help you. You're young. You don't know how to do this on your own. I'm doing fine, I said. They kept at it for another 10 minutes, trying every angle they could think of: guilt, pity, even anger when they realized I wasn't moving. Finally, I told them to leave or I'd call the police. As they walked back to their car, my mother turned around one last time. Please think about it, Ethan. We're your family. But they weren't. Not anymore. What they didn't know was that my grandmother had left me a letter in her will. In it, she warned me about this very thing. Be careful who you trust, she'd written. Some people only come around when they want something. She was right, as always. I thought that would be the end of it, but of course it wasn't. A few days later I received a letter in the mail. It was from my mom, written in a shaky handwriting that didn't match the person I remembered. She went on and on about how sorry she was for what had happened and how hard things had been for her since I left. She said Haley felt terrible too, though I doubted Haley cared. The letter ended with her asking me to meet her for coffee so we could talk things out. Against my better judgment, I said yes. We met at this little diner on the outskirts of town. My mother was already there when I walked in, sitting in a booth, twisting a napkin between her fingers. She looked older, more tired than I remembered. For a second, I almost felt sorry for her. Thanks for coming, she said. I sat down but didn't say anything. I wanted her to speak first. I know I screwed up, she began. I let Jack take over and I didn't stand up for you like I should have. I was so focused on making things work with him that I didn't see what it was doing to you. I didn't answer. I thought I was doing the right thing, she went on. I thought Haley needed stability, and I just assumed you'd be okay. But I was wrong. I see that now. Why now? I finally asked. Why are you only realizing this now, after Grandma left me the house and the money? If she hadn't, would you even care? She winced, but I wasn't going to sugarcoat it. I care because you're my son, she said. And because I can't go back and fix what I did, but I can try to do better now. Do you even realize what you put me through? I asked. You let them treat me like trash. You let Jack kick me out. And you stood there and didn't say a word. Do you know what that does to a person? Her eyes filled with tears. I was scared, Ethan. I was afraid of losing Jack, afraid of being alone again. I didn't think it through, and I hate myself for it. I leaned back in the cabin and shook my head. You don't hate yourself. You just hate that you missed out on the money. Don't think I don't see through that. That's not true, she said, but her voice cracked and I knew I'd hit a nerve. You want to make things right? I asked. Here's how, leave me alone. Let me live my life without you or Jack or Haley trying to crawl back in just because you want a piece of what Graham's left me. Her face fell and she started to cry again. I'm sorry, Ethan, she said between sobs. I really am. I stood up and pulled some bills out of my wallet to pay for the coffee I hadn't touched. Goodbye, Mom, I said. As I walked out of the diner, I felt a strange mix of emotions, anger, sadness, and maybe a little relief. I'd finally said everything I needed to say, and for the first time, I didn't feel like I owed her anything. But just when I thought it was over, things took an unexpected turn. A week after that tense meeting at the diner, I received a letter in the mail. But this one wasn't from my mom, it was from a lawyer. At first I thought it was some kind of mistake. But when I read it, my stomach sank. The letter explained that my mother and Jack were contesting my grandmother's will. They claimed that she hadn't been of sound mind when she made it, and that the estate should be fairly distributed among family members. In other words, they wanted a piece of what wasn't theirs. I was furious. My grandmother had been sharp as a tack to the day she died, and I knew this was nothing more than a desperate grab for money. The idea of Jack and Haley profiting from the woman who had taken me in after kicking me out made my blood boil. I immediately called the lawyer who had handled my grandmother's estate. What are the chances they can actually win this? I asked. Not very much, she said. Your grandmother's will was properly drafted and witnessed. Their claims are weak, but we'll have to prepare for a fight. A fight was exactly what I didn't want. I just wanted to move on with my life, but it seemed that my mother and her family wouldn't let me. The next few weeks were a blur of legal meetings and paperwork. My grandmother's lawyer was confident we'd win, but the process was exhausting. Every time I thought about my mom sitting across from me in a courtroom, trying to tear apart the last thing my grandmother gave me, it made me sick. Then one day, Haley showed up at the house. I was outside mowing the lawn when I saw her car pull up. She got out and stood on the sidewalk, looking unsure of herself. I turned off the mower, but didn't move to greet her. What do you want? I asked. I need to talk to you, she said. I crossed my arms. About what? About how you're trying to steal from me now. She winced, but didn't walk away. I didn't mean to do it, she said. It was Dad's idea, and Mom went along with it because she's afraid of him. But I told them it was wrong. Congratulations, I said flatly. You grew a conscience. Too bad it's too late. She hesitated, then said, Ethan, I know you hate me. I probably deserve it. But I didn't lie about the necklace. That caught me off guard. What are you talking about? I didn't say you stole it, she insisted. I just told Dad I couldn't find it. He's the one who jumped to conclusions. I never thought they'd actually throw you out. Her words hit me like a ton of bricks. For years I'd blamed Haley for everything, and now she was telling me it hadn't happened the way I thought. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Because I don't want to be a part of this anymore, she said. Dad's not going to stop, and Mom's too scared to stand up to him. But I don't want anything from you. I'm sorry, okay? I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to tell her to get lost, but another part of me couldn't ignore the fact that she was trying to make things right in her own way. I'll think about it, I finally said. She nodded, got back in her car, and drove away. That night, I sat down and read my grandmother's letter again. Be careful who you trust, she'd written. But what if some of the people I was so angry at weren't the real enemies after all? The court date came and I showed up ready for whatever my mother and Jack had planned. Their argument was predictable that my grandmother had been influenced by me and wasn't thinking clearly. But the evidence was solid. Her will had been carefully written, witnessed, and supported by her doctor's testimony that she'd been completely lucid. When I spoke, I kept it simple. I told the judge how my grandmother had taken me in when my mother and Jack had kicked me out, and how she had made it clear that she wanted me to have everything she'd worked for. The judge didn't take long to rule. The will stood and her case was dismissed. My mother tried to talk to me outside the courtroom, but I shut her down. "We're done," I said and walked away. Not long after the case, Haley came by again. This time she handed me a small box. Inside was the missing necklace. "I found it in one of Dad's old drawers," she said. "I think he took it back then to make trouble." I didn't know. I didn't know what to say. After all these years of blaming her, it turned out that Jack had been behind the whole thing. "Why are you giving me this?" I finally asked. "Because it's yours now," she said. "And because you deserve to know the truth." Then she left. I sold the house, moved to a new town, and started over. My grandmother had given me a second chance, and I wasn't going to waste it.